Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. At only 13 years old, Emily Johnson, a brilliant but naive teenager, sees her life change overnight. Having become pregnant amidst secrets and hasty judgments, she is expelled from her high school and rejected by her community. Accusing stares, constant whispers, and closed doors become her daily routine. Her youth fades into the shadows as she struggles to survive and raise her child. But life has its own plans. Years later, Emily returns to the town that cast her out. Transformed, determined, and stronger than ever, she stands before those who had humiliated her. The same townspeople who judged her at 13 no longer recognize the young woman before them. Between confrontations, revelations, and twists, her return will change everything. Some will try to put her down, others will have to admit their mistake, but one thing is certain: Emily is no longer the girl who was expelled. What seemed like a tragedy at 13 has now become a story of resilience, subtle revenge, and resounding success. Shock and emotion will be on the menu, as no one was prepared for what she would accomplish. Emily Johnson was 13 years old when her life changed forever. A quiet little girl with hazel eyes and brown hair always tied back in braids, she was known for her kindness and shy smile. But beneath her fragile exterior lay an insatiable curiosity and a keen intelligence. It all started with Lucas Miller, a boy 2 years older, who often came to help her with her math homework. Their innocent friendship quickly took a turn Emily hadn't anticipated. At the end of the school year, as rumors began to circulate in the halls of the school, she discovered she was pregnant. The world around her collapsed. Her parents, horrified and overwhelmed, don't know how to react. The news spreads faster than the wind. The high school principal, Mrs. Harper, calls her to his office, his gaze stern. "Emily, you can't stay here any longer. This is unacceptable." These words, spoken coldly, will echo in his head for years. Evicted and left to face her fate alone, Emily must find temporary housing and a job to support herself and her unborn baby. Her best friend, Sophie Williams, is the only one who supports her, offering her refuge, advice, and sometimes, simple moments of respite. But the entire town seems to have turned against her. Former classmates whisper in the hallways, neighbors whisper behind the curtains, and Emily feels every look as judgment. At 13, Emily understands that life can be unfair and cruel. But amidst this chaos, a spark of strength begins to grow within her. She promises herself that, no matter what, she will survive for herself and her child. A silent but powerful promise that will become the driving force behind her eventual return. After her expulsion, Emily Johnson finds herself alone in a world that seems to have abandoned her. At 13, with a growing belly and no professional training, she must learn to survive in a city that gives her no favors. Her parents, still in shock and unable to cope with the situation, help her find a small apartment in a modest neighborhood, but she knows that life will not be easy. Every day becomes a challenge. Emily begins working part-time at a local cafe run by Mr. Thompson, a stern but fair man, who quickly guesses her determination despite her young age. Between coffee orders and pastries, she learns the value of hard work, discipline, and quiet courage. But school remains a nightmare. Without a diploma or official support, Emily takes classes remotely, often at night after work. Books become her refuge, and every line she reads is a step toward a future she refuses to give up. She swears to herself that her child, Aiden, will never know the shame or rejection she experienced. The first few months are the hardest. Fatigue, pain, and hostile stares weigh on her, but she also discovers unexpected allies. Mrs. Carter, a kind elderly neighbor, offers her advice on motherhood and encourages her to continue her studies. Emily begins to understand that even in solitude, there are pockets of support and kindness. Through each challenge, Emily forges an astonishing inner strength. Every day, she becomes more determined, more resilient, more aware that her life will never be dictated by the judgment of others. At 14, she holds her baby for the first time, a little boy with bright eyes and curious fingers. In that fragile and intense moment, Emily understands that her mission is greater than her suffering. She must build a solid future for him, no matter the cost. Thus begins Emily's long journey, that of a teenager forced to grow up too fast, but who discovers that survival, determination, and love can transform tragedy into strength. By the time she was 15, Emily Johnson had already faced more challenges than most adults. Every morning, she would get up before dawn to prepare Aiden, take care of her needs, and go to the cafe where she worked. Fatigue could have broken her, but she transformed that energy into motivation. She knew she couldn't afford to let circumstances define her life. Despite everything, Emily had a dream: to return to school and graduate. She wanted to prove to those who had rejected her that their judgment wouldn't be the end of her story. Every night, after rocking her son to sleep, she would sit at her kitchen table, surrounded by books borrowed from the library, and study. Math, English, history, nothing was too difficult, and every piece of knowledge gained was a small victory over her situation. She also finds solace in an unexpected passion: writing. Emily begins to record her thoughts, frustrations, and hopes in a worn notebook. Each word is therapeutic and a reminder that she has the power to control her narrative, despite the cruel whispers of the city. It was during this period that she met James Carter, the neighbor's son who has been helping her since the beginning. James is 17 and admires Emily's courage. Their friendship gradually turns into mutual support. He helps her find scholarships for young mothers and organize her schedule to balance work and study. For the first time in a long time, Emily feels understood and less alone. But the road ahead remains fraught with challenges. The cafe sometimes closes early, impatient customers judge her, and the bills pile up. Yet Emily refuses to give in. Each obstacle becomes a test of her resolve, and she begins to understand that her future success depends on her ability to persevere through thick and thin. At 16, Emily finally graduates from high school, a milestone victory in her life. She smiles at Aiden, now a curious and energetic little boy, and promises herself that nothing and no one can stop him from achieving his dreams. The world that rejected her at 13 didn't yet know that Emily Johnson was far from finished. At 17, Emily Johnson had already come a long way. After graduating, she decided it was time to rebuild her life and build a stable future for herself and Aiden. She begins by looking for a more secure and better-paying job than her position at the cafe. Through her efforts and recommendations, she lands a position as an administrative assistant at Harrison & Co., a small local company specializing in accounting. The beginning is difficult. Emily must juggle her job, the responsibilities of a single mother, and her evening classes to attend professional training. Colleagues, some skeptical, sometimes look at her condescendingly. But Emily, strengthened by all the challenges she has endured, ignores the murmurs and fully invests herself in each task. Her skills and rigor eventually stand out. Mr. Harrison, the owner, becomes a quiet but influential mentor, giving him valuable advice on career and life. Meanwhile, Emily continues to raise Aiden with love and discipline. She instills in him values of respect, perseverance, and courage, showing him that despite difficulties, one can always get back up. Each smile of her son becomes a new energy to face life. But Emily isn't content with just surviving. She's beginning to envision a future where she can not only live, but shine. She saves every dollar, plans for her future, and harbors a silent ambition to one day return to her hometown and show everyone who rejected her what she's become. It was also during this period that she renewed her contacts with Sophie Williams, her childhood friend. Sophie, faithful and loyal, becomes a constant emotional support, encouraging her to never forget her dreams and to stay true to herself despite the hardships. At 18, Emily is a transformed young woman, strong, independent, and determined. She has overcome adversity, learned to survive on her own, and laid a solid foundation for her future success. And in the silence of her thoughts, an idea germinates. One day, she will return and shock everyone, proving that the young girl humiliated at 13 no longer exists. At 19, Emily Johnson was beginning to reap the rewards of her efforts. Her job at Harrison & Co. had become a second home. She knew every file, every procedure and, thanks to her rigor, she had earned the respect of her colleagues and superiors. Mr. Harrison, impressed by her talent, offered her the opportunity to follow advanced training in management and finance, an opportunity that Emily accepted without hesitation. The young woman understands that every skill she acquires is a weapon against those who had judged and humiliated her. She works late into the evening, often after going to bed, Aiden, and turns every obstacle into a lesson for the future. Those around her begin to notice her transformation. The shy and vulnerable teenager has become a confident, ambitious, and determined woman. Emily isn't limited to professional success. She continues to save and invest her savings wisely, knowing that financial stability is the key to her freedom and independence. She dreams of a future where she can not only provide for her Aiden, but also to assert herself in the face of those who had previously rejected her. It is also during this time that Emily begins to prepare for a discreet but strategic return to her hometown. She considers every detail: her appearance, her language, her attitude. Every decision she makes is guided by a clear objective: to show that she has become an accomplished woman, that her years of struggle have not been in vain, and that her success is not only material, but also moral and emotional. But Emily hasn't forgotten the hurts of the past. Memories of her expulsion, the cruel whispers, and the rejection of her peers remain etched in her mind. These memories, far from weakening her, become a driving force. Every success, every smile of Aiden, each small step towards her independence, is a silent revenge against those who believed that she could never get out of it. At 20, Emily Johnson is ready to take the next step. She's transformed her pain into determination, her stolen youth into early maturity, and her failures into valuable lessons. The time for her return is approaching, and no one in her hometown yet suspects that the young girl they humiliated is about to become a woman capable of surprising them all. At 21, Emily Johnson was now a confident and independent woman. Her face, once marked by anxiety and fatigue, radiated confidence and determination. She had not only succeeded in raising Aiden, but had also built a promising career in finance through his skills and hard work. But despite all his successes, one goal remained clear in his mind: return to his hometown. This return was not motivated by brutal revenge, but by the desire to show that she had triumphed over adversity and that the hasty judgments of her past no longer defined who she was. She wanted to face those who had humiliated her and prove to them that their rejection had not destroyed her life, but had made her stronger. Emily begins meticulously planning her return. She takes care with her appearance, choosing elegant but understated clothing, and works on her speech and posture to exude confidence and authority. She reconnects Sophie Williams, who becomes her confidant and strategic advisor. Together, they brainstorm ways Emily can surprise her old classmates, her old teachers, and even the administration at her old high school. However, the path is not without obstacles. Some former classmates, now adults, are curious or suspicious at the idea of seeing her again. Emily knows she must anticipate their reactions and remain in control of her emotions. Every interaction must be calculated, every word carefully chosen. She transforms every doubt into preparation and every fear into motivation. Meanwhile, Emily continues to work and grow her finances. She also begins to invest in small local businesses, developing her business acumen and ensuring that her future and that of Aiden are secure. Her return will not only be emotional, but also strategic. She wants to show that she has become a woman in control of her life, her destiny, and her power. As the day of her return approaches, Emily feels a strange combination of nervousness and excitement. She knows it will be a moment fraught with emotion, surprises, and confrontations. But one thing is certain: she's ready to confront her past and turn yesterday's hurts into today's triumphs. The long-awaited day had finally arrived. Emily Johnson, 22, returned to her hometown after nearly a decade away. Every step she took on the familiar sidewalk stirred painful memories: mocking laughter, closing doors, accusing stares. But this time, she was no longer the vulnerable young teenager. She was strong, elegant, and confident. Her face, bright and determined, inspired respect and immediate curiosity. Her first stop is in front of her old high school. The building seems smaller than she remembered, and the walls still carry the echoes of memories. As she walks through the doors, she feels the eyes turn toward her. Her former classmates, now adults, barely recognize her. Some whisper, others remain frozen, unable to hide their surprise. Emily advances, her chin raised, with a quiet but imposing grace. She crosses Mrs. Harper, the headmistress who expelled her at 13. The woman, now older, is speechless. "Emily, is that really you?" she whispers, a mixture of astonishment and embarrassment. Emily responds with a simple smile, enough to convey that time and perseverance have changed things. But the real shock comes when she meets Lucas Miller, the one who had caused her situation. He is now an adult, but his eyes betray guilt and regret. Emily does not seek to confront him brutally. Instead, she lets her success and presence speak for her. Her confidence, her posture, and her aura show that she is no longer the victim he once knew. The whispers among former students and teachers grow louder. The people who judged and rejected her as a teenager are beginning to realize that this young woman has not only survived, but triumphed. Emily savors every moment, not out of revenge, but out of pride and satisfaction. Every surprised look is a reminder that her inner strength has overcome the obstacles life has placed in her path. At the end of the day, as she leaves the school, Emily feels empowered. Returning is more than just a passage, it's a silent but powerful declaration. She has rediscovered her roots, confronted her past, and left an unforgettable first impression on those who once humiliated her. And she knows this is only the beginning, the real surprises and confrontations are yet to come. Emily Johnson's return to her hometown was starting to cause a stir. Former classmates, neighbors, and even some teachers whispered as she passed. But Emily wasn't there to listen to rumors, she was there to celebrate her success and transformation. The first major confrontation occurs with Kelly Andrews, a former classmate who had been particularly cruel to Emily as a teenager. Kelly, now an adult, worked in a small boutique downtown and hadn't expected to run into Emily, spotless and radiant. Kelly's eyes widened, her mouth parted. Emily approached, calm but imposing. "Hello, Kelly," she said simply. "I guess you weren't expecting me." The silence is heavy. Memories of mockery and rejection resurface for Kelly, while Emily remains in control of the situation. She doesn't seek to humiliate. Her presence, her confidence, and her success are enough to make it clear that time has reversed the roles. Soon after, Emily meets Mrs. Harper, the principal of her old high school. The reunion is tense. The woman, once stern and unsympathetic, seems uncomfortable. Emily smiles at her, but within that smile lies a clear message: she has overcome injustice and transformed her life. Finally, the most intense remains the confrontation with Lucas Miller, the one who had played a major role in the tragedy of his youth. He tries to speak, to justify his past actions, but Emily, with icy calm, answers him. "Excuses are useless. What matters is what I've accomplished since then." This simple yet powerful sentence leaves Lucas speechless. Emily isn't trying to put him down, she's letting his success speak for itself. The whispers around them confirm one thing: everyone is shocked by Emily's transformation and strength. That day, Emily realized that her return wasn't just a silent revenge, it was a testament to resilience and inner power. She had confronted her past, confronted those who had hurt her, and shown that neither rejection nor cruelty could define her. As the sun sets over the city, Emily realizes that every step she takes in this dramatic comeback brings her closer to the ultimate phase, showing everyone the complete success and fulfilled life they never anticipated. Emily Johnson knew her comeback would only be complete when she could show everyone not just that she had survived, but that she had triumphed. At 23, she organized a symbolic visit to her old neighborhood, accompanied by Aiden, now a curious and energetic boy, and Sophie Williams, his lifelong confidant. The first stop is in front of the old school library, a place Emily had frequented during her distance learning. There she meets locals, some of whom immediately recognize the once humiliated young woman. But what surprises them are the details of her life, her professional success, her financial stability, and above all, the happiness and confidence she exudes. Emily doesn't seek to shame her former tormentors. Instead, she shares her journey, the sleepless nights, the financial obstacles, the challenges of teenage motherhood, and the years of hard work building her life. Every word is charged with emotion, truth, and power. Viewers are captivated, some moved to tears, others frozen in amazement. When she mentions Lucas Miller, some hold their breath. But Emily doesn't accuse her, she simply shows how she has transformed pain into strength. The townspeople realize that the judgment and cruelty of the past could not stop her. Finally, she subtly reveals her financial and professional success, mentioning her investment plans and her total independence. The shock is immense. Those who had once doubted her now understand that Emily Johnson is no longer the vulnerable and rejected young girl they once knew. At the end of the day, Emily leaves the library with a sense of accomplishment. She has done more than surprise the community, she has inspired and transformed perceptions. The murmurs of judgment have disappeared, replaced by a mixture of respect, admiration, and, for some, remorse. This revelation marks a turning point. Emily is no longer just a survivor, she has become a symbol of resilience, success, and inner strength. And she knows that the final chapter of her comeback, the moment when she will fully confront those who once humiliated her, is approaching. The final chapter of Emily Johnson's comeback begins with an unexpected reunion in the hall of her old high school. At 24, she is now an accomplished, confident, and admired woman. The same walls that witnessed her humiliation at 13 now resonate with awe and surprise. Emily organizes an official meeting with former students and teachers, including Mrs. Harper, Lucas Miller and several comrades who had participated in the past mockery. This time, she enters not with anger or a desire for revenge, but with the quiet dignity of a person who has survived and transformed her trials into strength. She speaks in front of everyone. I'm 24 years old today. I was expelled at 13 for mistakes that weren't mine. I've experienced pain, rejection, and loneliness, but I survived. And what I've built since then is my victory. The silence is complete. Every word is heavy with truth and emotion. Emily continues. You judged me too quickly. But this experience taught me one thing: resilience is stronger than judgment. And today, I am here not to punish you, but to show that pain can be transformed into strength. Lucas Miller, once indifferent, is visibly upset. He lowers his head, aware of his past mistakes. Even Mrs. Harper, who had been cold and severe, realizes the impact of her judgment and sketches a smile mixed with regret and admiration. The former classmates, some ashamed, others impressed, begin to applaud. Emily smiles, not out of vanity, but out of deep satisfaction. She has shown that time, hard work, and perseverance are the most powerful arguments. She has transformed rejection into success, pain into power, and shame into pride. As she leaves the high school, hand in hand with Aiden, Emily feels a new peace wash over her. She has accomplished what she promised herself, to confront her past, showcase her success, and inspire those who had underestimated her. Her victory is not just personal, it is universal, a testament that, no matter the hardships, strength and determination can transform a broken life into a triumphant one. And so, Emily Johnson disappears from the gaze of the elders, leaving behind a mixture of shock, admiration and inspiration, proving that no one can stop a person determined to write their own story.